Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. Let's break down this clip from CNN where this reporter is talking about Tucker Carlson's announcement that he's interviewing Vladimir Putin this week.
To interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin.
Tucker Carlson is lying from the streets of Russia, no less.
Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin.
That's a lie. Serious news outlets, including CNN, have requested Putin to interview over and over again.
So she is actually right here that several major news outlets have requested to have an interview with Putin, but several others also have not requested to do so. The thing about the ones who have is Putin has declined, knowing that they're basically state-run media programs at this point, and all they would do is ask him gotcha questions, go after him, not actually hold a proper interview asking about his viewpoints, policies, and goals, especially when it comes to what's happening in Ukraine. Why would anyone willingly go into an interview with someone who has already publicly denounced them, said they're a war criminal, and is actively urging for a war against the very country you lead? Why would anyone go into an interview with someone like that? Well, they wouldn't. And so the reason Tucker Carlson gets an interview is because he's actually an independent journalist who wants to legitimately interview Putin to understand his perspectives, why he started this war, why it's continuing. Let's continue on.
Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never heard his voice.
Another lie. Serious news outlets, including CNN, have covered and, of course, reported on Putin's words since this war began, including one of his baseless justifications for the invasion of Ukraine, which he initially claimed was to stop the Nazis.
First, because it's our job. We're in journalism.
I like how here she's referring to CNN and their cohorts as serious news outlets, even though that's the farthest thing from the truth. And yes, they've reported on some things he said, but they clearly don't have any intention of legitimately understanding why he's doing the things he's doing. They're viewing everything from our Western perspective. Why would Putin be so mean? When what you need to ask is, why is Putin acting in the way he is? What's the difference between his interests and his position? His interest being his actual objectives, what he actually legitimately wants. Why is he doing this at the core? And his positions being how he goes about doing it, what he claims to be the reason for doing it. The interest doesn't change. Your interest is your core belief. Your position is how you go about achieving it or explaining it. CNN only cares about his position. They don't care about his interests, which leads to drastic miscommunication about what's going on and why it's happening. Tucker seeks to understand Putin's interests, to actually get to know what's going on inside his head.
Tucker Carlson is not a journalist. Not even close. And his former employer in a court case actually agreed. Quote, the general tenor of the show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary.
So yes, Tucker Carlson had an opinion show on Fox News, but that does not delegitimize him as a journalist. He is still allowed to carry out journalistic activities. And who are you to deem who is a journalist and who isn't? Isn't someone who just reports on what's happening a journalist? Do you really need some special certification or to work for CNN to be called a legitimate journalist? Apparently she thinks so. And that's the problem with the news media, is journalism is supposed to be about the free flow of information. Anyone can be a journalist. Anyone can report on what's going on. Anyone can be a whistleblower. Anyone can seek to deliver the truth to people independently. Because without that, you end up with what we have now, which is basically a state-run media organization that only allows certain things to go to the people and delegitimizes anybody who doesn't work for their cartel of the media industry. They say, if you don't work for CNN and say exactly what they say, you're not a real journalist. It's gatekeeping of the highest order, and it's designed as a propaganda tool. If information only flows through a couple of sources, and those sources all report to the government about what they should say and not say, they're not really a free and fair press, now are they? Versus what Tucker's doing, which is one man talking to another man and releasing the full interview. Wouldn't you call that at its core real journalism? Guess not.
2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine.
For 2 years, real journalists have risked their lives to report from the ground each and every day in Russia and in Ukraine, including 2 U.S. journalists who are right now baselessly being detained.
So here she's doing the typical media spinning instead of addressing the issue and refuting the point that Americans generally don't have any idea what's going on in that region. And she's saying that, oh, well, we have people risking their lives to get information out. Okay, well, what information? There's so much we don't know. And most of what we know comes from one side. If you don't know what's going on with the other side, that's a problem, both strategically and intellectually. If you don't understand why Russia's doing the things they're doing, why they're continuing this war, what they hope to achieve, then how can you ever hope to combat them? If you hate Russia so much, you should be trying to learn as much about them as possible if you see them as your enemy, instead of being willfully ignorant to what they actually want, to what Vladimir Putin actually wants. Even Sun Tzu talked about this hundreds of years ago in The Art of War. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And right now, we either know ourselves and not our enemy, or arguably worse, and probably more realistic, most Americans don't know the enemy or ourselves. They don't know what's going on either side. They don't know why this war is continuing, or even why it started in the first place. And so for CNN to grandstand and say you should listen to us because we have reporters risking their lives to not deliver you information other than Russia is mean, then you probably shouldn't listen to them. Then there's probably something you don't understand. And it's fine to not understand things as long as you seek to understand them. That's what Tucker Carlson's trying to do. That's why the media doesn't want him to do it. They don't want you to understand what's going on. They don't want you to sympathize with Russia. And yes, Putin's not a good guy. Maybe he is a sociopath. Wouldn't that be great to hear him say these things himself? To legitimize your beliefs about him being a terrible person, a horrible human being who just wants to slaughter Ukrainians for no reason? Or maybe he does have a reason. It might not be a good one, but it'd be one worth hearing. So why is CNN so afraid? Why do they hate that Tucker is trying to interview Putin so much? If everything CNN has said up to this point is true, then all it will do is legitimize their perspective. But they're afraid. They're afraid Putin might have a good point. They're afraid Putin may not be the one-dimensional comic book villain that they want you to believe. They're afraid that'll come out. Remember, there's two sides to every story. That doesn't mean both people are in the right, but it means for some reason he believes he is. And that reason would be very good to know. So it's surprising to see how much they're attacking Tucker Carlson over this, calling him a Russian agent, a spy, a Russia sympathizer, a threat to the US government, a threat to democracy. So we'll just have to see what happens and the consequences of this for Tucker. But there's nothing more journalistically integral to our society than releasing the news to the people, despite the wishes of the US government, despite the wishes of the media cartel. Tucker Carlson is above all, and one of the last, true journalists. Now that you've heard what I think, please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think this is going to be an interesting interview? Do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea? Do you agree with the lady on CNN here? Let me know all your thoughts. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.